Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having an incredible day. To start things off, we begin once again with news. That's everywhere news. Crypto markets are still correcting for the second day following over a week of solid gains. Most digital assets are still in the red, but there are a couple of solid performers, and they're mostly exchange-based tokens. Total crypto market capitalization has shed around $12 billion over the past 48 hours as Bitcoin and its brethren correct as expected. Declines have been steady, as opposed to a steep plunge, indicating that markets are primed for further gains. At the time of writing, the total market cap was around $275 billion, and the majority of altcoins were in the red. A couple of coins are bucking that trend, though, and making solid gains, and they are mostly exchange-based tokens. Hong Kong headquartered OKEX has followed in the footsteps of market leader Binance by developing its own blockchain. As a result, the OKB token has skyrocketed over the past day or so, from trading around $4 on Monday. The exchange-based token surged to $5.70. and a 42% pump over the past 24 hours. I'll tell you exactly why. It has since pulled back marginally, but is currently the top performing altcoin in the top 100. The move has lifted OKB's market cap to $330 million, which gives it the 34th spot on CoinMarketCap. The surge has been initiated, and this is not it. It says the surge has been initiated by the launch of the OK chain and the OK DEX. According to the blurb on the company's announcement, they said OK Chain is a here we go. They said OK Chain is a decentralized public chain that supports various decentralized applications and allows users to issue their own cryptocurrencies, create trading pairs, and trade freely on it. So the news everywhere is that the OKB token went up by 42% on the announcement that the people from OK Chain had decided to announce and launch their own public chain, so and so and so. However, the internet exists, and all you have to do is Google for the information, and you end up finding it. Apparently, what actually happened was the people from OKEX, they took their token, and they burned 70% of its supply. One can only assume, imagine a situation where this cannot happen, because this is why I said it was very funny when they said it was a decentralized public chain. Imagine a situation where on a decentralized, open, permissionless network such as Bitcoin, someone burned 70% of all the Bitcoin. I wonder what would happen to the price of Bitcoin overnight. Imagine if all the other Bitcoin that was actually circulating out there that people are trading back and forth was just completely burned overnight, and the only Bitcoin that was left was what I hold, what you hold, what they hold, etc. It is far more likely that this coin went up by, they burned 70% of the coin. That seems to be the actual reason for this pump. And just keep in mind, there have been other decentralized permissionless platforms, I air quoted the heck out of that, that have also burned their own tokens and coins and stuff like that, which they didn't do by the actual, they didn't ask the rest of the network. They simply did it themselves, which means that there is a centralized point of control, which means that you yourself are not decentralized. I'm talking about 3 coins in particular who continue to burn their coins, and I think one of them, you know exactly who I'm talking about, who burned, what was it, 20 or 30, 40% of all the coins that they had in one fell swoop, assuming that the market would go completely insane for their token, and then the very next day the price went back down. Here we go. Exchange CEO Jay Howe gave it a big plug on his Twitter feed, adding that there has been a 700 million uncirculated OKB token burn. 700 million. Why would you need to create and then burn 700 million tokens? It's only one reason, ladies and gentlemen. The move. Sorry, I'm pretty sure I'm getting a cold. It's just that kind of season. I don't know if I mentioned before. I live in a world, for some reason, where people walk down the street and sneeze and cough into the air. I don't know what the why this trend is picking up and people don't sneeze into their arms anymore, but here we are. The move has basically mirrored what Binance did last year, launching its own Ethereum competitor in the Binance chain and the DEX back in April of last year. Binance market share has grown since then, swallowing up rivals like Bittrex, Poloniex, and Bitfinex. The other news is that Huobi token, this one has cranked from $3.90 to $4.75, a 22% pump in the last few hours. Huobi token was one of 2019's top performing crypto assets with a surge of almost 150%. Today's momentum comes following an announcement that Huobi will join the Clayton Global Blockchain Governance Council, led by South Korean internet giant Kakao. And here's the tweet right there. So that's the beginning of the news. That's everywhere news. Always try not to follow the hype. Just because there is a huge movement upward today does not mean that it will be there tomorrow. How many other times have you or your friends traded the OKB or the OKEX token? Probably not that often. So in situations like this, if you assume or do your own research and come to the realization that this coin could have continual proper organic gains, by all means, this may be your new coin to invest in. However, if you can read between the lines, why would anyone imagine Tesla burning 70% of their stock? Are they doing it because they like the word burn? Or are they doing it because they're trying to get people more interested in something that they might not have been interested in before? There's the OKEX exchange news once again. Also in news that's everywhere news, it says XRP fails to break above 28 cents, but appears stable against Bitcoin. This one says BTC USD, another bullish correction. This one says Ethereum price analysis, Ethereum correcting lower, but uptrend still intact. This one says Bitcoin indicator suggests 190% rally incoming. This was, of course, said by Mr. Tom Lee. The news right now is, and this is, I think, choose my words carefully. I think a lot of people got bored with the fact that the market was going up, and I think a lot of people thrive on negative news. I saw at least 38 bajillion other cryptocurrency news outlets who made it their top priority to announce that the cryptocurrency market was crashing. The market was going back down, rapid declines. Can XRP hold on? Will Ethereum go below $200? It looks like Bitcoin could be aiming for $5,000. I looked at the cryptocurrency prices, at least at the time of me making this video, and I think every coin in the top 10 was either in green or they were down by 0.22%. I think Bitcoin was around 87.90, somewhere around there. And because it broke down below 9,800 about 7 or 8 hours ago, that for them was an indication that the end was nigh. So, like I said in news, that was everywhere news. The crypto market is down, but not really. I told all of you to expect a pullback from 10,000. There was nothing really indicating that we were going to zoom back up to 11,000. This happens every single time. For those of you who do not know, for those of you who just simply have not paid attention over the last couple of years, if ever there is something that people are reporting as a resistance, we will eventually hit it, and then we always slink back down by 2, 3, 4%. About a week later, what ends up happening, we pass by that number once again, and no one reports it as a resistance because we just passed it 7 days before, and then a new resistance pops up, and then we have to pass by 95. And then when we pass by 95, the price slinks back down. It's the same pattern over and over, but I think that people don't realize it, don't want to realize it. I think there's more excitement for people in the unknown, but we always know what's going to end up happening, kind of thing. Anyway, sorry for screaming. The market's down, but not really. And there are a couple of exchange tokens that are moving upward. Let's move on. In interesting news. These two tie together. One of them will sound familiar, and then the other one will be like, oh, what? OmiseGo raised eyebrows by announcing the first mainnet transaction in a private environment, with it initially unclear what exactly they meant. OmiseGo's Enzo from marketing and communications team has now explained in an email. He said, in regard to your questions about our first mainnet transaction, since we're a layer 2 solution, this is our Plasma implementation rooted into Ethereum's mainnet. All of our previous testnets have been rooted in an Ethereum testnet, either Rinksby or Ropsten. This mainnet environment is our first time setting up the entire system against Ethereum's mainnet. This is private. We're not announcing any of the endpoints because it's still being tested and validated. Plasma, therefore, has moved from the Ethereum testnet to the live Ethereum network, but Plasma itself is still in a testing environment while now running on the actual Ethereum network. Pay attention to all the words that I just said, and then I'm going to continue saying. This private mainnet environment is just one of the many testnets we plan to deploy before releasing a mainnet environment to the public. We take audit recommendations very serious, and we'll adopt them wherever they can improve security. That part's not important. Release, actual mainnet transactions, blah, 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 because are heavily validated. The contracts and environments are still heavily validated, and it is not ready for public use. We do not want to put anyone's funds at risk. OmiseGo and tolerance, the public keys, network. We will be providing more information on our official channels and newsletter as we grow closer to public deployment. So please continue to stay tuned. Plasma tries to condense transactions by bundling them into an on-chain settlement with the real accounts kept on a child chain. It's a promising piece of scalability puzzle, with the team now addressing the results of 2 audits while slowly and cautiously rolling out the solution. Things like Plasma, you can't have a reserve key. You get it. They're working on Plasma. OmiseGo Plasma. So, here's what's also happening with Plasma. It says the Ethereum network is still looking to boost transaction capacity, and the startup Optimism wants to lead the charge. Since the network's throughputs is limited to around 15 transactions per second, Ethereum cannot become a widespread platform for automating functions like supply chain management and loans unless it scales. There's no way. So Optimism aims to use a layered approach similar to Bitcoin's Lightning Network, increasing the number of people who can use the network with smart contracts. Optimism was once the research-oriented nonprofit known as Plasma Group. You sticking with me? Focusing on building a second layer for Ethereum as described by the creator Vitalik Buterin and Lightning co-founder Joseph Poon in a 2017 paper. Then in January 2020, the team announced it was transitioning from a research collective to a for-profit startup called Optimism, backed by a $3.5 million loan money from Paradigm and IDEO Collab Ventures. But backtracking a little tiny bit, for those of you who don't know, since around 2017, I think OmiseGo was officially announced or released in 2018. I guess not really, if we still don't have mainnet transactions. The OmiseGo team was working with the people from Ethereum to end up building Plasma, which was the main kind of takeaway thing that we had been talking about for a very long time as far as the implementation of Plasma on top of Ethereum and the OmiseGo network. Why? It was because this would allow OmiseGo and therefore Ethereum as well to be able to have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of transactions per second. But it appears as though the Plasma Group has now transitioned into a company called Optimism, and they are now, I believe, for profit. IDEO Collab's Dan Elitzer said the Plasma team realized last year while participating in one of his firm's programs that the market didn't need the solution they were working on. This led them to develop their optimistic roll-up approach, and I'll touch on that in a moment. Some critics in the industry see this transition to a for-profit startup as a controversial move. Bitcoin advocates argue Plasma experiments failed, and Dragonfly Capital partner Ashwin Ramachandran described this transition as the death of Plasma, which is weird because we were just talking about Plasma from the OmiseGo people. The other interesting part is, for those of you who do not know, the Lightning Network is quite controversial in the cryptocurrency space for many reasons. But the main reason being is the people who created the Lightning Network were the people from Blockstream, who more or less have control over Bitcoin's code. They do the auditing and all this other stuff. You know, there are public people who do the auditing and, you know, they work on the Bitcoin network themselves. But Blockstream, as of now, is kind of the company who the code has kind of been passed on to, if you will. We had the idea of many other solutions for the scaling of Bitcoin. I'm just telling you what actually happened. This isn't a crypto political discussion. It's more like I'm giving you the history of what's been taking place. We had indications that there would be scaling for Bitcoin directly on chain. A lot of this did not come to pass, except for SegWit, which ended up tearing the crypto community apart. And then we had the idea, people came forward with the idea for the Lightning Network. The problem with the Lightning Network was that we had seen a video before in 2017, or I'm pretty sure it was 2017, where the people from Blockstream had pretty much denounced that this decentralized, permissionless, open public blockchain would have something built on top of it that was for profit, i.e., people running nodes on the Lightning Network would be able to get money. Doesn't really matter, the entire yada yada. So then, when Ethereum was birthed and came to light, we also realized that Ethereum was also very slow. Ethereum had only maximum 15 transactions per second if they really pushed it. So someone came forward and they were like, we have introduced something called Plasma. The idea of Plasma, it would be a side chain that would have other side chains, and therefore they would all link to the mainnet network. And at some point, Ethereum would be able to handle hundreds of transactions per second. And then we got news, we'll be able to do tens of thousands of transactions per second. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, can you imagine if Ethereum is trying to become a world computer? What tens of thousands of transactions per second would do. This was also around the same exact time in 2017, where all the news was floating around. It was Visa, not blockchain. Not joking. You can find articles on it. It was pretty much talking about, I think, Visa and MasterCard can do, what was it, 55,000 transactions per second or some number around there. And they were like, until Bitcoin and Ether can do that, there's no hope for them. Vitalik Buterin and the people from Plasma came forward and said that they were going to start working on Plasma more. And they had come up with the numbers that Vitalik Buterin said during a press conference, I guess you can kind of call it that they saw in their numbers that Plasma would allow Ethereum and ERC20 tokens, which was a very big thing at the time, to be able to handle hundreds of thousands, if not millions of transactions. And he says, as the years had gone on, continuing further to the year 2030, they foresaw a future where with Plasma, Ethereum would be able to do hundreds of millions of transactions per second. And this is what I also believe led to the run up of Ethereum's price. It was the promise of this incredible amount of transactions, as we saw the huge run-up in people actually creating ERC20 tokens. It seemed like a brand new economy built entirely on top of Ethereum, and we kept on having the news that Plasma and some other upgrades were coming. They were going to be there. They were on their way, and this is why I kept on saying in 2018 and 2019, I was like, I wonder what's going on, because we were promised all this stuff at the end of 2016. In 2017, that was a really big, like, yeah, CryptoKitties slowed down our blockchain, but we have all these upgrades and updates coming, and everyone was like, okay, cool. Not a problem. The price kept on going up. The reason why a lot of people flocked to Plasma initially was because it was something relatively different than the Lightning Network. It was something that was not for profit. It was simply this idea that you could have other chains that people could simply use. And now I think Plasma a year ago was also touted as the new solution for people building smart contracts, i.e. that entire decentralized finance movement on top of Ethereum. Therefore, with Plasma, you'd be able to do that as well. And how many contracts all these other major institutions will be able to do. And this is why I think we still have the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. The movement of Plasma, the thing that was supposed to be the scaling solution for Ethereum, to a for-profit organization, leads us down the same exact road that we had for the Lightning Network, where do we need a for-profit solution on top of Ethereum? Can we not just simply have a non-for-profit, whatever, chains running alongside Ethereum, and therefore the things running on them could then just be companies or smart contracts or DeFi that are all for profit. You understand what I'm saying? A lot of the decentralized networks now have centralized points of whatever you kind of want to call it. Now that I look at it, I mean, I know that the space has morphed into something just for money, but it's like why couldn't you also just do what you're doing right now? Because what these people are also not insinuating, what they're also proposing is just another scaling solution for Ethereum. But now it's going to be able to get money for the creators behind the scene. They said it's like this alien that morphed many times and in many different forms and eventually died, at least in the form in which it initially launched. This was said by Ramachandran in a phone interview. Addressing such concerns, the startup will launch an alpha testing environment on Tuesday called the OVM, the Optimistic Virtual Machine. The OVM, which is based on Ethereum's virtual machine, is meant to give Optimism's speedier second layer the same smart contract functionality of the underlying blockchain. They said the OVM enables support for all existing Ethereum developer tools, including Solidity. By making smart contracts work above the base layer, Ethereum advocates aim to finally make Ethereum scalable. I know this will cause much arguments within the cryptocurrency space, or even if this will succeed, because if you've been here in crypto, and I dare even say longer than 4 years, there have been countless numbers of proposals for all of these blockchains. So many corporations and entities and foundations have been created in the name of scaling, making better, quicker, faster. And what ends up happening is, especially if this is the same exact thing like I think it's going to be, you need adoption for Bitcoin's Lightning Network. You need people to openly say, okay, we are going to start using and or accepting Lightning Network as a payment option, or we are going to stake Bitcoin, essentially, on the Lightning Network to be able to open up payment channels. I would not be shocked if when we hear the final rundown of what Optimism, formerly Plasma, is going to be. Don't be shocked if in order to build or open up payment channels or to build anything on top of it, that you also then need to stake your Ethereum, which would then have us needing to stake on Optimism, stake on the proof of stake, and stake on the decentralized finance platform, which in essence, once again, it would be able to hyper lower the amount of circulating Ethereum. But like I said, just giving you the news as it is, because the people from Plasma have become Optimism. No word on how this will affect OmiseGo. A lot of this still appears to be in the dark. I will assume by April, we should have a lot more news about Optimism and exactly what they're doing. And if the people from OmiseGo are also going to be using Optimism, or if they're still sticking with Plasma, because news. Let's move on. In news that may make some people happy, I hope, cryptocurrency exchange Coinbase has launched trading support for USDC and ZCash for New York residents on Monday. The exchange announced its two separate tweets that residents of New York State can now use Coinbase to buy, sell, convert, send, receive, or store. Those are the same words, just switched around. USDC and ZCash. Coinbase Spanish tokens. New York in 2019 had added a number of coins for New York residents. And New York, you now have, had before, XRP, DAI, D-A-I, Stellar Lumens, and Chainlink. I decided to throw this in because I see a lot of... I saw the other day when I was mentioning that there were other options for people to use within the states and not having to only stick to one cryptocurrency exchange. A lot of people told me or I assume they are from New York, that they can't use an enormous amount of other cryptocurrency exchanges, and they don't have access to many coins. I don't know why New York State is so ridiculous. I hope that you all get access to the other coins that everyone else has access to. Can you write like an assemblyman or like a congressman or something? Whew. All right, let's move on. SEC Commissioner Hester Pierce wants to give legitimate crypto projects a shot at success without running afoul of U.S. securities laws. And I'll tell you 2 reasons why I think this is quite interesting. The 2-year official at the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, has formally proposed a safe harbor for token projects. It would give them some breathing room to develop their networks and communities before having to worry about the regulatory regime. Under Pierce's proposal, unveiled during a speech at the International Blockchain Congress in Chicago on Thursday, crypto startups would have a 3-year grace period from their first token sale to achieve a level of decentralization sufficient to pass through the agency's securities evaluation, including the Howey test, the famous U.S. Supreme Court assessment. To date, the SEC has brought enforcements against thousands of companies that created and sold tokens, including Telegram and Kik, 2 major messaging platforms. This, I think, is probably one of the most fascinating parts of this article, the 3-year grace period. Do you remember, for those of you who weren't here in 2017, count yourself lucky. The entire discussion was SegWit, CryptoKitties, Ethereum killers, and are you a security? It was very fatiguing because nonstop, this was the entire, even people who didn't understand what a security was kept on screaming at other people's projects that their projects were securities. Pretty much, if you are a security, just think of something that you buy that you expect to get profit back from, i.e. a stock or a bond. If you are buying Apple, if you are buying Nike, these are securities because you're buying them with the intention of the price going up in the future. We had a number of cryptocurrency projects. Bitcoin was officially listed as a commodity, as was Ethereum officially, I believe, last year. But this was after a couple of years of there was a news story that we had gone over that apparently tons of lawyers from Ethereum had actually gone to the SEC's office, and I assume they had a very long, friendly discussion as to exactly what was going on, because the rumors were that Ethereum, as it was funded through an ICO, and there was a pre-mine for Ethereum, that therefore Ethereum was a security, and that the SEC was going to call them a security, and that it was going to cause the entire network, so blah, 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 to completely fall apart. I assume behind the scenes, this is my assumption, wasn't in the room, I assume some of the companies from the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance who have very big names probably went to the SEC, handed them a cookie, and told them to sit down because there's too much money behind Ethereum to kind of, call them a security. The other part is that we had information. I mean, it was so speculative at that point. But the entire is XRP a security discussion. And then when we started having Brad Garlinghouse coming forward saying directly that he was not a security, and I had to remind people that he was part of a multi-billion-dollar company, he probably had proper discussions with the SEC telling them, yeah, you're definitely not a security, because he would have never, if you say something like that out loud, you get fined. You can't tell people to buy something that may be a security. You're saying that it's not a security. If the people from Kik and Telegram were fined I think 50 million or something like that, one can only assume the people from Ripple will have felt that a lot more. But what I started to notice is that there was no real answer at all from the SEC on any other cryptocurrency project, not on XRP, not on Lumens, not on Litecoin, not on anything. I assume, my assumption, bringing it all back, that this 3-year grace period has actually been active for a while. And I think they're only announcing the 3-year grace period, or rather she's announcing that she would like to have a 3-year grace period for brand new cryptocurrency companies who would like to get into the space, simply because it would make it easier for them, and they probably have had success with already established cryptocurrency projects who have done what they needed to do. I think it says it's somewhere around here. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. The analysis of whether a token is offered or sold as a security is not static and does not strictly adhere to the digital asset. In other words, some tokens may appear to have the qualities of a security at launch, but mature to the point where it no longer appears to be one. This is what I believe happened with Ethereum. I think Ethereum was very close to being called a security. This is why you have to send lawyers into their office, because I think the idea was that if you have enough nodes decentralization on your network, therefore you're totally fine. This is why I think we saw that break from the people from Ripple and XRP, making sure to establish that they were completely separate things. Why we saw all the stuff that we saw. I don't have time to reiterate everything that we saw over the last 2.5 years, but I think this is why the SEC is like really targeting messaging firms and apps and all this other stuff, and not the other crypto. Because stay with me, I'm pretty certain at this point, if XRP, Lumens, Litecoin, EOS, all these other things had been considered securities, we would have heard so. Oh, it even says it somewhere around here as well. Sorry for screaming. Where is it? Here we go. It says, this has going years. A similar transition was also seen with EOS. The SEC settled charges with the company last year, saying the original ERC20 EOS token was a security. But the project's final EOS token was not. Holders migrated from the ERC20 token to a native version after the network was fully built out. Do you remember when this all happened and I said that they were genius for doing so? They announced on their website, for those of you who actually participated in the EOS ICO whole thing, I didn't, but I remember looking at the website. And they mentioned in a huge paragraph, it says, if you are buying this ERC20 EOS token, this token has no value. This token has no use. This token has no nothing. You can't use it. You will never be able to use it. It said all these crazy things. And I said it's genius because when they switch over to the actual EOS token, like the actual EOS token, and they have all these nodes and they're further more decentralized, what have you, not getting into that discussion, it'll be a completely different thing than what was originally sold. I think they still got scathed because I think the SEC realized what they were trying to do, still ended up finding them for the ERC20 token, but not for the actual EOS token. And this is why we hear no news about EOS being a security, because they made sure to kind of, I'm going to say, slither their way around. That makes them sound very, anyway, the entire point is, this is just a proposal. Here's the actual thing on the sec.gov. It says, running on empty, a proposal to fill the gap between regulation and decentralization. I am going to be honest with you. I do not foresee a future anytime in the very near future where this is going to pass. I do not know Hester Pierce, but I appreciate her efforts constantly, all the time. It's her, and who's the other guy? The other head of the SEC as well. We keep hearing about how they're actually trying to get all these things pushed through. I feel like regulators will probably not, I don't think they care for the cryptocurrency space. I think they're trying to figure out whatever they can to do. And the fact that you could even have something like a safe harbor is very fascinating in and of itself. Imagine being able to create something that from the get-go you know is a security, but you have 3 years to be able to decentralize your network enough for the SEC to never even have to knock on your door ever. It's fascinating because it allows the community and the space to completely grow. It allows other companies like Plasma and like, what was the other one? Optimism, to be able to grow and properly decentralize what they're doing without the SEC having to fine them $15 million a couple of years later. Because the space is super new, people still don't understand exactly what it means to be 100% decentralized in the eyes of the SEC or the CFTC. Anyway, this is a proposal. This news is kind of all over the place because, once again, we have a head person from the Securities Commission who is actually proposing something like this. Let's see if it ends up being pushed through. Kind of interesting that the SEC commissioner before has proposed other things and they were shot down by the rest of the SEC. So it may not always be rainbows and sunshine, but at least we have an advocate in the space. Because it would be a lot more difficult. Imagine if we didn't have people who were like, yeah, let me try and help. And if everything was deemed a security, if everything was deemed a so-and-so, and everything was, had been raided and people had gone inside their offices to look through all their files and stuff like that, and all of your information because you had bought some tokens. It's a bit much. But yeah, that's the SEC news for today. And to kind of finish things off, Bitcoin's firm 2020 uptrend has sparked a sense of FOMO, that is fear of missing out, amongst cryptocurrency investors who are keeping their eyes on a plethora of different fundamental factors that could catalyze an intense Bitcoin bull rally in the year ahead. The FOMO induced by these factors, which include the cryptocurrency's upcoming mining rewards, is elucidated while looking at the total amount of Bitcoin wallet addresses that have over one full Bitcoin. This number has been growing rapidly as of late, suggesting that retail investors, everyday normal people, are engaged in heavy accumulation, which could provide the crypto with significant momentum. It has some price stuff around there. It appears that investors are carefully considering all those bullish fundamentals at the moment, as data from Glassnode show that the amount of Bitcoin addresses holding over one full Bitcoin is growing quickly and is showing few signs of slowing down anytime soon. They said that part after a sharp drop 3 months ago. We've surpassed the highs of November, and an all-time high is just 2,000 addresses away. So we need 2,000 people on the planet to accumulate an entire Bitcoin, and then we will be past that all-time high. While considering the heavy accumulation that investors are currently engaged in, it is highly likely that this will provide Bitcoin with a steady stream of buying pressure that allows it to continue climbing higher. We are, the simplest way to put it, a lot of people are buying Bitcoin. The main thing, this was a huge topic in 2018. We have not spoken about this in a while. For those of you who don't know, there's something called crypto vanity. Everyone wants to be able to say that they have one Bitcoin, and most people don't feel comfortable saying, yeah, I have 0.74321983 Bitcoin. It's the idea that you have a whole one. You have a full one. You have something, not that no one could take away, but you understand the entire idea of it. Like, you don't buy a car and the front half of it is chopped off and you have like 2 wheels on it. I mean, you kind of get the entire idea. Like, you can still use less than a Bitcoin, an entire Bitcoin, but everyone wants to have that full number. And having that full number, or people wanting to have an entire Bitcoin, will cause a strain on the market as more people try and accumulate an entire Bitcoin, realize that they can't, and then they continue buying as much as possible to get to that one Bitcoin. So like I always mention, if you have 0.28 Bitcoin, you are part of the 1%. If you have one Bitcoin, I think, what is it? I think there are 13,000 people on the planet who will never be able to have a Bitcoin because of you. Sounds a bit dark, but it kind of is what it is. And if you find yourself with like 10, 15 Bitcoin, you're doing well. You're doing well. Yeah. As always, a very special thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Professor Wally from Gunbot University, Chongololo Tsongololo Nostromo, Mr. Pickles, John Sarson, The Animal Reader, A Bibliophobia, Barebones Mining, Todd Mullis, Adam Graysick, Mohamed Maroni, Master Ventures in Thailand, Brady Neal, Jared Schneider, Wise Knight Owl, 242 to the World, Crypto Joe, Bankroll Network, Adobo, Milweezy, Crypto Artist, Coldy 3D, Nicholas Renorth, One Piece, One Love, Damien Set, Suna, Nick, Kanaya, Richie, Richard III, Vlad the Impaler, Krypton Bish, Shipmate, Paxis, Nick Mangialavori, Anthony Charles, Jim Garner, Jeremy Fox, Minting Coins, Miller Hitch Test Every Day and Cal Skips Leg Day, yes, 2 Crypto, Bodie Mick Boatface, Anytime Fitness, Monk's Corner Staff, Tigara Machonisa, Bake Me a Cake, and Arf Medic 17. Thank you all very, very much for your support. At the moment, for those of you not looking at the screen, Bitcoin is in red, but it's moving up. And this little slight move up has caused the rest of the market to already also move up. The entire top 10, except for Tether and Bitcoin, which is currently under 0.09, is green. Ether is up by 1.5%. XRP is up 0.5%. Tezos is up by 6.4%. I just don't understand Tezos anymore. EOS is up. Who knows why? I guess maybe it could just be this momentum in general. Any other crazy ones? IOTA's up by almost 9%. I don't remember there being IOTA news. Maybe something is happening behind the scenes. Anything else? The illustrious Bitcoin Diamond is also up by 7.4%. I'm terrified. 0x 7.9%. Algorand 14%. Waves is the point is the market's in green. If you're holding an altcoin, you're probably feeling good right now. Let's see if this continues. There have been ups and downs over the last couple of hours in the cryptocurrency market. Let's see if we continuously see. I don't know how to finish that sentence. Bitcoin going back up, and therefore the other coins also going back up as well. I do hope you all enjoyed stay away from people. People are gross. I'm pretty, yeah, I'm not like sick, but I definitely don't feel 100%. I'll drown it out with tea. Feel just gross. Hope you all enjoyed. Hope you all are having a great day, a great morning, a great afternoon, a great evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope that it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching and or listening. I'm off to the second channel and work. I should be taking a day off, but I don't know how to do that. Thank you all once again for watching and listening. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.